Welcome to A Few Thoughts About, the show where we dig into thinking and how it shapes our experience of life. Each week, I share insights and observations to get you thinking. No long lectures, just quick, thought-provoking episodes to shift perspectives so that you can make the change you want to make. Let's get into it. Hey, before we get going, I want to extend an invitation to you. This series of podcasts I'm doing is actually for people who are supporting someone going through changing their relationship with alcohol. And oftentimes there's a lot of questions, there's not a lot of understanding, and I'm going to get into this in the episodes. But if you want to get on my list, if you want to reach out to me because you have a specific question, if you want to book some time with me to talk about this, we can do that. Or if you'd like to be on my list so that when I do host groups to talk about it, then you can go to scottpenier.com/podcast right now. There is a place there where you can reach out to me. You can send me a message. Please do it. I know that it is difficult to be the person supporting someone going through this. I know that it can be confusing, and I want to do whatever I can to help make that less confusing and help you feel like you're contributing and working with them in a way that's good for both of you. So scottpenier.com/podcast. Reach out to me there. Let's start the show. Well, hello there, and welcome to A Few Thoughts About Supporting Someone, Part 1, The Problem. I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about this because this is the first time that I'm going to be recording an episode for not the people who listen to this program. So this episode and the next few that follow as I go through this series are going to be for the support people, for the people that are showing up for us, for the people who want to be there to help us out. You know, I was very lucky in that my wife, Annie, was there with me the whole way. And her and I have had lots of conversations about what that was like. And so what I'm going to present over the next few episodes is going to be heavily influenced by that. It's also going to be heavily influenced by the conversations that I've had with the partners and friends and supporters of my clients. You know, I've spent a lot of time with clients actually offering to, and with my one-on-one clients, I regularly do offer to have a call with their support folks to kind of talk about the process, right? And so what I want to do here is answer the questions that come up the most often, right? I get asked these questions about, man, how can I get so-and-so to understand, right? What can I do to make it easier for so-and-so to help me through this process? And so I want to speak directly to you so-and-sos out there, right? You spouses of friends or family members or whoever it might be, and just talk a little bit about what this whole thing is, and give you some things, not only some things you can do. And I want to actually focus on the most important thing you can do, which that's going to come a little bit later in the series. And then we're going to kind of wrap it up and kind of pulling it all together to try to give you at least a sketch, at least an outline of ways you can show up in the most supportive way possible. And all of that starts with a better understanding of the problem. So there's a reason I'm asked this question all the time, right? And there's a reason that couples and support folks and people going through it will fight as someone is going through this process. And the reason is very simple, right? So as a support person, you're looking at this person that you care about, that you love, that you want to see be happy and whole and get out of the space that they're in. And you're looking at them and you're seeing like, oh, well, the problem is drinking, right? And they've said the problem is drinking. And they've said, I'm signing up for this course, or I'm reading this book, or I'm going to these meetings, or I'm doing these things. And you're watching them do it. And then they're maybe making progress, and then maybe they slip up. Maybe they drink again. You know, maybe they do good for a while. Maybe they keep saying, I don't know when I'm going to quit, but I'm going to quit eventually, right? They're saying all of these different things. Meanwhile, you're looking at them, and from your perspective, the answer is quite easy. Just stop. And literally, like, I've gotten a lot of emails from partners and support people in general saying, why won't he or she just stop? Like, it's really clear that this is what needs to happen. And this is the foundational thing. This is the thing that I want you to take away from this episode that's really, really, really important. This is not a knock on you, but it is not possible to understand what that other person is going through until you've been through it. And I've had this conversation with my wife many, many times because I was really curious, what did it look like to her? What was it like to be there as I was saying, all right, never again, only to come home with beer that night? Or if I was to say, I really need to cut back, only to come home with scotch that night. One thing that is so important for everybody involved to understand is that we all have our own perspectives, right? It's all of our own experience. It's all of our own internal worlds that we're living in. And many times, especially for the people in our lives that we love, those internal worlds line up. But this is going to be one of those times where those internal worlds are very, very different. I know for people who haven't struggled, it really is easy to just put down the alcohol. It just seems like it makes the most sense. And that's very understandable. But for people who are struggling with drinking, it's nowhere near that simple. There are so many triggers and cravings and urges and things that come up for us, ways that, we begin to sort of rationalize, and we do all of this stuff, none of which is necessarily logical, seen from the outside, all of which is very real and very intense when you go through it. And so many problems with support people are sort of balanced on this idea that, like, why don't you just quit? And the thing is, it's just not that simple. And so if you're a support person, first of all, good on you for listening to this. Like, this is awesome that you're here and you want to do this. My very first thing is to recommend to stop trying to understand. Stop trying to necessarily make sense of. Because the experience of being stuck with alcohol use disorder is very different. And it's one that's hard to describe, again, unless you've been through it. So if you have been through an addiction story, maybe it was something like smoking in the past, or then you're going to get a sense of it. But if you haven't, and you're completely, this is totally foreign to you, one of the best things you can do is be there and talk and listen. We'll talk about that in a future episode. But underneath all of that, let go of that idea of, well, what you need to do is this. Like, why won't you just this? And I know this is a big ask. As a matter of fact, it can be a huge ask, right? Because sometimes the behavior of the other person can be very frustrating. They can do things and act in ways that you just listen to it and you go, I don't understand. I don't get why you're doing this. You told me you didn't want to drink. Why are you drinking now? That frustration is there and it's real. And it's important that we honor that and you take care of that, which, again, that's going to be something we talk about in a later episode. But understanding the fundamental nature of the problem, that it's going to be very, very difficult for you to see why they're doing what they're doing, and letting go of having to, quote unquote, understand, and letting go of trying to make sense of it. What that does is it frees up a ton of space for you to do the things that help the most, like show up with compassion, like show up to talk. And that's what the next episode is going to be about. So understanding that you don't understand it, understanding that it's difficult for you to understand it, that is huge. It can seriously eliminate a ton of stress, and it puts you in a much better position to have conversations and engage and be there to support in a new and different way. And that leads me to sort of the second point of this whole episode, which is this: they're not doing this to hurt you. And sometimes it can feel like it. Sometimes they can make a promise or they can say they're going to do something and it can feel like, God, you're just letting me down. And again, I want to honor those emotions, and we'll talk about this in part 3. Like, this is a very important part of this process. The things that you are feeling and the things that you are thinking are valid, and we'll get into that. But their behavior has nothing to do with you. one of the other things that is really common and really easy for people to do because of this fundamental misunderstanding is it's very, very easy for our loved ones to think, because they don't understand it, that somehow, even if they tell me they're not going to drink again, that if they do drink again, it means something about me or it means something about the relationship. I can promise you that that's not the case. I have literally worked with thousands of people. Not a single person has actually been drinking about someone else. They have been drinking about the fears or emotions or things inside of them that are causing them stress or anxiety or things they want to get away from. So as a support person, it can feel sometimes like that's the case, but I 100% promise you that ultimately the person drinking is not doing this to hurt you. They're doing it because it's what makes the most sense to them at that moment. And even if you can't fully understand it, rest assured it makes sense to them. And one of the best things that any of us can do as we're supporting someone through this process is to let go of having to understand, to let go of applying the logic of our experience to their experience, because they're really so wildly different. So if you find yourself in this position and you find yourself getting upset, again, I want to honor that, and we'll talk about that in later episodes. I want to remind you that it's going to be very, very difficult to fully understand where they're coming from. And if you can let go of the need to understand, if you can let go of the need to get it, and instead focus on what you can do to support them, it can be a whole different process. Well, there you go. That is part one, the problem. I'm excited to hear what you think about this. Please head on over to scottpenier.com/podcast. There is a place where you can write me emails, and I'm very serious when I say that, like, you writing these emails in and asking me questions and talking about this is going to be so incredibly helpful. And I am planning to eventually host some groups on this as well. So if you want to get on that list, go to scottpenier.com/podcast, email me, tell me you want to be on the list for that, and I'll let you know when all of that is possible. That is it for me. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll be back again next week.